For decades, Chinese diplomacy was characterized by its quiet, unassuming nature. This approach, rooted in the principle of keeping a low profile and biding your time, prioritized avoiding confrontation and fostering a stable international environment conducive to China's economic growth. However, the 2010s witnessed a dramatic shift in China's diplomatic posture. This new era was marked by an assertive, often combative style that took many international observers by surprise. This shift, dubbed wolf warrior diplomacy after a popular Chinese action film franchise, signaled a departure from China's traditional approach and reflected a growing confidence in its own strength and a willingness to defend its interests more forcefully on the world stage. The term wolf warrior originates from a series of Chinese action films that depict elite Chinese soldiers undertaking daring missions to defend China's interests, often against foreign adversaries. The films, characterized by their patriotic themes and displays of Chinese military might, resonated deeply with a domestic audience experiencing a surge in national pride. The term wolf warrior quickly transcended the silver screen and became shorthand for a more assertive and confrontational approach to international affairs, one that eschewed the restraint of the past in favor of a more muscular defense of China's interests. This shift was emblematic of a broader trend within China towards a more self-assured and assertive foreign policy, a reflection of the country's growing economic and military power. The shift towards wolf warrior diplomacy was not an overnight phenomenon, but rather the culmination of several years of gradual change in China's diplomatic posture. As China's economic and military might grew, so too did its confidence in its ability to shape the international environment. This newfound assertiveness was first evident in China's increasingly forceful stance in its immediate neighborhood, particularly in maritime disputes in the South and East China Seas. Chinese diplomats, once content to operate in the shadows, became more vocal in international forums, pushing back against what they perceived as unfair criticism and defending China's policies with increasing vigor. This more assertive approach was a clear signal that China was no longer content to be a passive player in the international system, but was instead determined to play a more active role in shaping the rules of the game. Several factors contributed to the rise of wolf warrior diplomacy. Domestically, China experienced a surge in nationalism fueled by the country's economic rise and a growing sense of national rejuvenation. This sentiment was carefully cultivated by the Chinese government, which increasingly emphasized patriotic themes in education and the media. Internationally, China faced growing pushback against its assertive foreign policy, particularly from the United States, which viewed China's rise as a challenge to its own global leadership. The Trump administration's confrontational approach towards China, characterized by trade wars and accusations of unfair trade practices, further exacerbated tensions and contributed to a climate of mistrust and hostility. This combination of domestic nationalism and external pressure created a fertile ground for the rise of a more aggressive diplomatic style. Section 5. Perception versus reality. While the term wolf warrior diplomacy captured a genuine shift in China's diplomatic style, it's important to note that this shift was often more about style than substance. Chinese diplomats, while certainly more assertive in their language and demeanor, did not fundamentally alter China's core foreign policy objectives. China continued to prioritize economic development and maintaining a stable international environment conducive to its growth. However, the tactics employed to achieve these objectives underwent a noticeable change. Confrontation and public rebuke became more common, replacing the previous emphasis on quiet diplomacy and behind-the-scenes negotiations. This shift in style, while perhaps intended to project strength and resolve, often backfired, alienating potential partners and reinforcing negative perceptions of China's intentions. Section 6. The limits of aggression. By 2021, there were signs that China's experiment with wolf warrior diplomacy had run its course. The aggressive rhetoric and confrontational tactics, while initially appealing to a domestic audience eager to see China assert itself on the world stage, proved counterproductive in achieving China's long-term foreign policy objectives. Instead of deterring criticism, the wolf warrior approach often had the opposite effect, hardening negative perceptions of China and fueling a backlash in Western capitals. The Biden administration, while maintaining a tough stance on China, adopted a less confrontational approach, emphasizing the need for dialogue and cooperation on issues of mutual interest. This shift in tone from Washington, combined with a growing realization within China that wolf warrior diplomacy was doing more harm than good, paved the way for a recalibration of Chinese diplomacy. Section 7. A return to pragmatism. In recent years, there has been a noticeable softening of China's diplomatic tone. This shift suggests a recognition that the aggressive posturing of the wolf warrior era was ultimately unsustainable and counterproductive to China's long-term interests. The COVID-19 pandemic, which highlighted the interconnectedness of the global community and the need for international cooperation, further reinforced the limitations of a purely confrontational approach to foreign policy. China, facing a slowing economy and growing geopolitical challenges, has adopted a more pragmatic approach, emphasizing the need for stability and engagement with the international community. Section 8. The delicate balance of criticism. The rise and fall of wolf warrior diplomacy underscores the delicate balance that countries must strike when addressing contentious issues with China. While it is essential to speak out against human rights abuses and other actions that violate international norms, it is equally important to do so in a way that does not unnecessarily antagonize China or close off avenues for dialogue and cooperation. Publicly chastising China, particularly in a manner that is perceived as questioning the legitimacy of the Chinese Communist Party, is likely to provoke a defensive or even hostile response. This dynamic necessitates a nuanced and calibrated approach, one that combines principled criticism with a willingness to engage constructively with China on issues of mutual concern. Section 9. The legacy of wolf warrior diplomacy. The legacy of China's wolf warrior diplomacy is likely to be mixed. On the one hand, the aggressive rhetoric and confrontational tactics of this era undoubtedly damaged China's international reputation, reinforcing negative perceptions of China's intentions and fueling a backlash in Western capitals. On the other hand, wolf warrior diplomacy may have also served a domestic political purpose, projecting an image of strength and resolve to a domestic audience eager to see China assert itself on the world stage. Regardless of its intended or unintended consequences, wolf warrior diplomacy has left an indelible mark on China's image abroad, one that will take time and effort to repair. Section 10. Navigating the future of Chinese diplomacy. As China continues to grow in power and influence, it will face increasing scrutiny and pressure from the international community. How China chooses to respond to this pressure will have profound implications for the future of global order. If China reverts to the aggressive posturing of the wolf warrior era, it risks further alienating potential partners and fueling a dangerous cycle of escalation and mistrust. However, if China can embrace a more pragmatic and cooperative approach, it has the potential to play a constructive role in addressing global challenges and shaping a more stable and prosperous future for all. The path that China chooses will depend in no small part on its ability to strike a delicate balance between defending its interests and fostering a more cooperative and rules-based international system.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.